camera recording. Thank you, Hilda. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming today. Appreciate that introduction, Christine. I know all of you, I think, pretty much, so that's great. I am going to share slides and give some information, but I also want this to be interactive, so feel free to jump in and ask questions. I'll also have time at the end for some questions, so bring them because I want to make it as customized as possible for you and for your life situation. It's very different for everybody, so if I can give you any tailored help, I'm happy to do that today. So let me just share my screen here.
I'm just gonna have lunch, so
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
just turn my screen off while I'm eating, but I'm still here.
No problem. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
I'm just going to, okay, you still see it? Or do you see my notes now?
Yes, we see both.
You see both,
Screen
okay.
and
So
notes.
I'll take off the notes, I can wing it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so thanks for coming today, everybody. Appreciate it. It is an important subject, and this is something that I deal with a lot with people. And unfortunately, decluttering, downsizing, aging parents, it can be a thing that really impacts the whole family, and sometimes not always in a positive way. So I'm here to try to share some tips to help make this as seamless as possible for you in whatever stage you're at, so that the outcome is that you have a downsized parent or downsized yourself and still have all your family relationships intact or better than they were before. So just a little bit about me. I think you all know me, but I work hands-on, like Christine mentioned. Like I'm out there on the job as many days as possible. So you can see a picture there of me decluttering somebody's garage. I get in there and dig into the stuff with everybody. That middle picture there is my team last Christmas. We went to an escape room and we escaped for the first time, I think. That was pretty fun. It was a good team building activity, but these people are all friends of mine or have become friends of mine through the last 13 years that I've been an organizer. And yeah, some of them are family that have decided to jump on board with me. And I love working with my team. They're amazing. They all take excellent care of my clients, which is really important to me, and I can completely trust them to handle things well, because it is a sensitive thing sometimes for people when you're in there dealing with their stuff and their emotions. I think most of you probably already know as well that I've written a book, Decluttering from A to Z. So that's the other picture there. So I'm just curious briefly why you're here today. A few options potentially. Have you or your parents lived in the same home for decades? Does the thought of sorting through everything feel completely overwhelming? Are you planning to downsize or you want to prepare long before you need to actually do that? Are you unsure how to help your parents start decluttering? So if you just want to come off mute and pop in and say what you're hoping to gain from today, then I can try and adjust everything towards you. If you're comfortable. You can put it in the chat otherwise too, although I don't think I can see the chat.
So hi, as a realtor, I'm working a lot with older adults, helping them right size. So I'm just trying to like learn, more tactics, more things that could help them or how to prepare them.
Perfect. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Jenny.
And Hilda and I are actually working this week.
Yep.
I guess I'm not on video. To help me with this exact topic, downsize. We've been in the house like 30 years, and even though it's not related to my parents, a lot of the stuff will be theirs. So yeah, so I wanted to hop on and maybe prepare myself a little bit before you come.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. Monica, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I've actually gone through it with my parents, taking the stuff out of a 5-bedroom home, and then they passed away. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with. And I'm not going to be that parent that passes all my shit down to my kids. They don't want anything. And so it's hard to get rid of things, but I've learned the memories stay here. So I don't need to
Yeah.
keep a box full of artwork from grade 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through to grade 12. Because if my daughter or my son don't want it, I don't need to keep everything. I've taken like one or two pieces and framed them, and that's it,
Yeah.
done. So I'm hoping to learn a few more things so that I can make their job easier.
That's so thoughtful of you. And I wish more people had the same attitude. Christine.
Yeah, I would say that
Oh,
I'm
Kathy.
in probably in the same I would say I'm probably in the same boat. I have my parents are gone. It was a big job, 50 years plus in the same house. Then I did my sister, and she's now in a retirement home, so that was more recent. But now I'm looking forward that soon as Alana gets her stuff out of my house, that we're talking about getting a dumpster and doing some serious cleaning up because we've been now in this house for 40 years. So getting things ready, and as Monica said, they don't want the stuff. I've got crystal, I've got the fancy teacups, I got china. They don't want that. I inherited silverware, like real silver cutlery stuff. Never used it. It's getting black. What are they going to do with it? I don't even want it, but I couldn't part with it when it was offered to me.
Yeah.
So
All right. Thanks for sharing, Christine.
Yeah. I'm at a bit of a different stage than you ladies because my kids are still at home, right? You have adults, children with their own homes. My guys are still at home, but I'm trying now to, like, I have two kids that I can sense they have a little bit of hoarder mentality. It's very common with my in-laws. Both my father-in-law and my mother-in-law have a lot of things. And I think that's all based on emotion. On when they were growing up, they felt great when their mom brought out the china because it was something special. So they can't part with it, right? But I'm trying to teach my kids that they don't need all the stuff. There's only so much room because I know they're going to be gone. And guess what they're going to do with that? It's going to be stuck at my house and I'm going to have to clean it up.
Yeah.
So I'm going through that. But also, I'm here because my mother cared for my grandmother for 15 years, had her living with her. And I'm approaching that stage where I know in the next 2 to 3 years, my parents will be relying on me much more heavily. I can see in the last year it started. My dad doesn't like to drive as much. So my boys who now have licenses are taking my mother to appointments and taking her out shopping or so I see that's and I so yeah, the house they have is going to be the house itself is not too big, it's the property. So
Okay.
anyway, yes, I'm here because I'm going to be there soon and
Mhm.
I want to be ahead of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining and for sharing that. It is really important, and I'm glad to see that many of you are actually planning ahead because there's situations sometimes where there's an emergency or things happen at a really at a fast pace. Somebody has can't move back home after an injury in a hospital or something, and decisions have to be made quickly. Downsizing has to happen quickly, and that's very, very stressful on everybody involved. So the further ahead that you can plan and start decluttering, the better. It is a long process because things have accumulated over time and they're not going to disappear overnight. There's no magic wand to make it all go away. So it just takes a lot of time and energy. And the more you can spread that out, the less overwhelming and stressful the process is for you. So I just did some of this, but yeah, your clutter builds up slowly over the years, and it's surprising when you go to move after many years in the house, what kind of stuff has built up in the backs of closets and drawers and things that you don't use regularly. They just kind of get tucked away. When you have to start pulling that all out and making decisions, it's surprising how much you actually have. Plus, there's all those emotional attachments that make it harder to let go. But even there's practical concerns like safety, right? So if somebody suddenly needs to start, has less mobility, needs to start using a cane or a walker in the home, but there's a lot of clutter, that's hard to suddenly have to start finding pathways. Or even somebody who's just walking and needs to hold the backs of furniture or find things to hold on to. If there's, things on the floor in the way, that makes it harder, and safety concerns become much more of an issue. Home maintenance becomes harder. as people age. And so the simpler everything can be in the home, the better. And so typically that includes having less stuff. If there's a lot of stuff, then it's very time consuming to have to, dust and clean, and becomes harder to breathe, and those kind of things too as you age. So, and like I said, it gets very stressful if it's left too late. So you're all on the right track doing this in advance, which is amazing. I love this quote. I don't actually know where it came from, but decluttering creates clarity and peace of mind. And that's essentially why I love doing what I do, because I love helping people who are stressed and anxious and overwhelmed and worried to get to a point where after decluttering, they feel so much lighter and better, and they can they have a much simpler life. They can live with that clarity and peace of mind that don't we all want that? It's the reason why I became an organizer, because I did this myself. I'm essentially my first client. I had to declutter my whole house after a really busy period of time in my life. And I loved the feeling afterwards so much that I said, this is what I want to do instead of finding another career. So I get it. I understand it. And that's why I want to help people do this. So I'm gearing this towards adult children, but just, if you're going through this process with your own stuff, just interpret these questions for yourself, but and the tips. But one thing that often happens with adult children who are helping parents is that they feel like they want to take charge. They want to tell parents what they need or don't need. It can come across, it can backfire with that kind of approach. So really taking the opportunity to ask questions versus trying to give your opinions is really important. Coming across in a caring way instead of criticism. Don't call things junk because you don't know what the history of something might be, what they spent on it, what they had to do to earn the money to spend on that, how long they saved for something. Even if it seems like junk to you, it may be something very special to them. And so ask questions, but don't come across critically or judgmentally at all as you're working through this process. And same for if you're doing it with yourself, with your own belongings, or with a spouse or sibling or whatever you're doing. Like be very gentle in how you approach it, because the judgmental side of things can really make it a lot harder. And there's enough guilt already for most people for how much stuff we have in our lives. So we don't want to make people feel any worse about what they have. But also helping parents or other people to declutter, it gives you an opportunity to really listen to stories about some of the items. And if you're doing this at far enough ahead of time, it gives you time to be able to ask questions about things that maybe you didn't know, a piece of their past that maybe you didn't know about. Even as people start to have dementia and memory loss, often the longer term memories are the things that they do keep for the longest. And so being able to listen to their stories is an amazing opportunity. And if you're rushing too much, then you don't have that opportunity to listen. So like even just as an example, my parents downsized about 10 years ago into a condo from the home that I grew up in. And they were great. They did a lot of all the decluttering themselves. I didn't even really help too much. But every year, my mom gets more stressed about putting her Christmas tree up. And she's very, very emotionally tied to the ornaments that she has. And so we go and help put up the tree to make it easier. But every year she always is telling stories about these different ornaments that were from her childhood. Some of them have wax on them because back in the day you had actual candles on your tree, not electric lights. And a lot of these were ones that came with her from Netherlands. And so she has a lot of memories, a lot of emotions tied to those. And so I love hearing those stories every year. It makes me proud to hear those and to be able to listen when she has some dementia starting. And so she forgets a lot of things in the short term, but she remembers every detail about those things from her past. And so being able to hear those stories every year is, ingraining them to me. And I've had her write some of them down, and we've written some of them down so that down the road, if I were to inherit some of those, I would have those stories and I can pass those stories on to my kids. And it's not a lot of stuff. It's, a box of ornaments that get put up on a tree once a year, and it's filled with memories. So take the time if you can to to get those stories and learn about what some of the items mean to the people that you're helping. But respect their pace, offer to help with things, but don't put a lot of pressure. Step back when you need to. If you can sense that there's tension arising, just take a step back, go for a walk together, or do something else, because it's stressful for people, and it's hard sometimes when we're the adult children helping to recognize how much stress the parent might be under, or for yourself. There's a lot of emotions on both sides. And like I said, there's a lot of guilt and frustration, worry about where's my stuff going to go? Who's going to enjoy it after I have to pass it on? Sometimes old family patterns can resurface. So if there's like a dominant person and somebody else who gets like ignored a lot of the time, or whatever the different dynamics are in your family, sometimes those patterns, even if they've seemed, okay and buried for years, as you just get together from time to time for special occasions or whatever, when you're getting into the thick of it, patterns can resurface, and it's good to be aware of those and be able to step back and identify those before some, things may get said or done that can damage those relationships. And if necessary, this is part of why I love what I do, is that somebody neutral can come in and help to manage those relationships, keep things moving forward. So we're still being productive, but allowing for breaks as needed and stepping back the emotions as needed. Being a neutral third party can help. And that doesn't have to be someone that you're paying. It could be a friend or somebody who can stay neutral, but finding somebody who can help if those dynamics start getting complicated, it's better to have somebody get involved and help if possible. I want to share a couple case studies. So these are based sort of on clients of mine, but they're sort of generalizations as well. So there's sort of two extremes. You can have just a little bit of time and a lot of help. This was a situation where the mother of the family had moved into long-term care fairly suddenly. She had lived in her home for 35 years, and the family needed to list it quickly to be able to pay for the long-term care that she was going into. She had 2 adult children, plus their spouses, plus teenage and young adult grandchildren, and they all came and helped to declutter her home, which was amazing. I spent 2 weekends with them, with one of my team members, and it was a bit of chaos, but it was controlled chaos. That was kind of my role, was to prioritize which rooms should we focus on in what order, directing people where to go, managing where all the donations and junk removal and stuff was going to go, and just keep the project moving. But this family was amazing. They loved their mom and their grandmother, and were so happy to look through all of this stuff. I'm sure they'd seen a lot of this over the years, but again, when you start digging things out of desk drawers and closets and stuff, you find things that you never even knew existed. And these grandchildren were so interested in the stories. So even though the mom was trying to focus on decluttering and making decisions, when one of the grandkids would come up to her and bring her something and say, well, what is this? What was that used for? Where did that come from? She would tell them a story. They would listen. It was really beautiful to watch, but they all still kept working too. And we got everything done in 2 weekends, a whole house very full of stuff. But there was some great discoveries, and lots of shared stories. And it was really beautiful to be part of this family effort. And I complimented the mother multiple times. I said, you have done an amazing job raising your children, and the way that they've raised their children, to be so eager. I would have a hard time convincing, sometimes some of my family members to help with some stuff, but these ones just jumped right in, spent 2 whole weekends helping, and it was great. We got so much done. So this is just one spot. I wish that I had pictures. I didn't want to take pictures of the grandchildren, but they were crawling around in a crawl space. Like, these are, teenage and young adult kids that were crawling around literally in a dusty old crawl space, pulling stuff out that had been buried in there for years and dumping it all into the space beside us. And then we decluttered from there. But they had a blast with each other, which was kind of neat. Not everybody, again, would do that, but they had just a great attitude. But this is just an example. We, had to declutter a lot of piled up stuff that had just accumulated in this part of the basement. And then the picture on the right shows we decluttered a lot of it. These were some things that the grandkids were going to, I guess the kids were going to take home and store for their future grandchildren when these grandchildren grew up and had their own kids. So some toys and things that were sort of classic things that they wanted to hang on to. So lessons from this case study: many hands definitely make fast work, but it's really important to have direction and to have somebody who's keeping everybody on track so that you don't get like bogged down in all of the stories or in all of the stuff. There was some emotions that surfaced. There was lots of stories, and it was really great. They donated so much stuff. Like we had multiple pickups scheduled from diabetes and some other places. We filled our cars every time. A bunch of them filled their cars, took things away, which was great. So even in a tight timeline, progress is possible. It's not ideal to do this because it is quite stressful. And I think at times the mother felt like she had lost control of the decisions because she wasn't able to make all the decisions. There was just no way with the volume of stuff in that house. So she had to give general guidelines and trust that her family members were going to make the right decisions. And so that's hard for people. She trusted her family enough that she was able to do it, but not everybody would be able to do that. So it can be very stressful. But it worked in this case. Then we have case study 2, where this was a lady who was preparing to downsize. Her adult children were unavailable. They lived far away. There was one that was estranged from the family. And I worked slowly with her over a couple of years. It was just her and me and my team. We went through her whole house. It was very cluttered. Things had accumulated from her adult children that they'd left behind, like you guys have mentioned. Things had accumulated from her husband who had passed away. He kept a lot of stuff. And she was just ready to let go. And so we did a first pass and removed as many easy items as we could. And then we went back through it. When she realized how small her next home would likely be, she was able to make even more decisions about what to let go. So then she let go of a lot of decor, lots of sentimental things, tons of books, basic kitchen items because she knew she was going to move to a smaller place and not cook as much, lots of clothing, lots of storage items and garage items because, again, she's not going to have those spaces wherever she's going next. So her motto was, I can't hold on to too much of the past if I want to enjoy the future. And I love that because it really helped her stay focused and make decisions. If it wasn't going to be something that was going to help her live the rest of her life in her smaller new home, then it didn't get to stay. It had to leave. And we helped her take care of all of those donations. So some of you may have seen this picture before because I've shared it a lot because it's so dramatic. There was barely a pathway to walk through this basement. The piles were so high, and we dug through all of this over time. It wasn't overnight. We sorted lots of things, and she made many quick decisions. And by the end, what was left was some basic furniture that some of it, I think her kids were going to be taking, and some of it she had a friend who was going to pick up. But we got rid of, like, the boxes are gone. There's very little. She had on the shelves on the left there, in that after picture, she had some storage, like some suitcases and some seasonal items. But basically, she cleared this basement. And it was amazing to be part of that journey because she was so ready to let go and she really wanted things to fit in her new life and not hold on to the past. So lessons from this case study: slow and steady is okay. If you have that time, then as long as you're making steady progress, it can take as long as you need it to take. Having a vision of the future home can definitely help motivate the decisions. Having neutral supportive help. She was physically unable to deal with all the stuff. So like a lot of what we did was physically moving things around, putting things on tables so she could look at them. We took all the items that were being sorted. We were dealing with all the stuff she'd made decisions to let go of. We were dealing with, she just made decisions and we did all the work with the physical stuff. That's not always the case, but if that is the case, it's really helpful to have people who can do that. So that, because the decisions are enough work for them. Like, it's tiring to make thousands of decisions about what you're keeping and what you're letting go of. So progress doesn't have to depend on a big family. If it's not available, then you look at elsewhere for supportive friends, neighbors maybe, or hiring professional organizers to help with this. And there is no right timeline. You just have to look at what your timeline is and look at how far ahead can we start and make some progress over time, so that at the end, when you need to make quicker decisions, potentially, you've already done the grunt work, the challenging decisions, and you're just going to deal with some minor decisions at the end when you know where you're actually going. So these are two extremes. Case study 1, a little bit of time and a lot of help. Case study 2, lots of time, but very little help. And really, most people will fall somewhere in the middle. But no matter how much time you have, how much help you have, find a way to put a plan together to manage that time and make the best of it, and just make forward progress, no matter what you're working on and what your resources are and what your timeline is. You just need to put a plan together to make it happen, so that it's less overwhelming. Once you see some steps, it makes it easier. So just a few tips here. So obviously, as I said a few times, start early if you can. Like, begin as long as possible before you move, before your parents have to move. That allows time for those conversations. It allows time for you to have emotions. If you come across something, you're not sure what to do with it, you don't really want to let go of it, you don't know where else it could go, it brings up some emotions. You may need to just sit on that for a little while and come back to it later. And that's okay if you have time. So starting early really allows for that. It also allows you to donate and sell items thoughtfully. So being able to give some items to family members if they want them, and being able to see them enjoy them or use them. Sometimes family members have given jewelry away that then a grandchild, for example, can wear their grandmother's ring or something like that, and they can see them wearing it, which is, it's sweet and it's nice. Even being able to find charities where you can donate items to if you're involved in different causes. I've got people who the spouse died of kidney disease and they donated bags of clothing to the Kidney Foundation. And that was meaningful to them because there was a connection, right? So if you have the time, you can choose where things are going a little more and a little more thoughtfully. Whereas if it's a quick, having to make lots of quick decisions at the end, more often than not, it's going to be, quickly dropped off at thrift stores, which is not bad either, especially nonprofit ones. That's my big pet peeve. But it just, sometimes there may be places where you'd be more happy donating things. And if you have time, you can do that. Another tip is to start small and work your way up. So just like if you're running a marathon, you're not going to go out there and run a marathon. I see Christine training and she's, she works her way up. Come back after the winter and you got to do a short run, and then you build longer and you build longer and you work your way up, right? You can't just go out there and run immediately. You have to work your way up. It's the same with decluttering. So you need to start with small things. Just start with a drawer or a shelf, and just work your way through things a bit at a time. Celebrate some of those wins. Look how much easier it is to find my clothing now that I've decluttered my drawer, because I can now see what I have and it's not just a jumbled mess. So celebrate those things because it will help you feel momentum to continue going. And that how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time really applies to decluttering. If you look at all of it, it's just completely overwhelming, and people tend not to start, which is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to just start with small steps, and gradually those will all add up to huge progress. And all of this combined helps you be less overwhelmed, whether you're the one helping a parent or whether you're the person decluttering your own possessions. Taking it small, starting small and working your way up really helps. Another tip is to start with easy stuff. So this may be different for different people. Well, it is, because I'll often ask clients, what do you want to start with? What is easy for you? And it's very different. And what's hard for some people is very different. So ask those questions, especially if you're working with your parent or a family member. What you think might be easy is not likely going to be easy for them. It could be very different. So make sure you're asking them, where do you think is an easy place to start? Someplace where you have things that are going to be easy for you to let go of. Definitely avoid sentimental items at the start. Just keep setting those aside. Put some bins together for sentimental items. When you've worked your decluttering muscles up, then you can start tackling sentimental items. So start with things like duplicates. You know, if you're in your kitchen and you've got 5 ladles and you really only use one because it's your favorite, then let go of some of those other ones. You know, if you've over the years decluttered a whole or accumulated a whole pile of curtains as you've changed out decor in your home and you didn't let go of the previous ones because, oh, I thought maybe I might use those in a different home, just let them go. You probably have more than you need, and wherever you go, you can start fresh there. Things that you haven't used in a long time, those are generally easier to let go of. There's things that are broken or outdated. We tend to replace a lot of electronics and don't necessarily get rid of the older versions when we get a new version. So let those go because, you know, the one you're using now is obviously working for you, so you don't need those older ones. And then definitely think through what's not going to fit in a smaller home. So if we're downsizing, you know, we're not going to have as much storage space. We're not going to have space for as much furniture. So often clients that I work with have a lot of bookshelves, but when you're moving to a condo with lots of windows, you don't always have a lot of space for bookshelves. So you may have space for 1 or 2 sets of bookshelves, but not, you know, the 5 or 6 that are spread throughout your home. So that means you need to declutter things that were on those shelves because you're not going to have a place to put those. So you kind of have to look at the ripple effect of what am I going to have space for in my new home and let that guide some of those discussions and decisions. Okay, so sorry, some decision-making questions. These are pretty common ones. If you forget them, I'm sure you could ask ChatGPT and they would tell you some questions that you could ask yourself if you're decluttering, but very common. When did I use this last? If it's been a long time, it makes it a little bit easier to let it go. Do I have something else that can do the same job? So when you're moving into a smaller place, you may not have room for all the gadgets. But if you can have a gadget that can do basically the same thing as another gadget, then let the other one go. So you just have the one that has multi-purposes. Would I buy this again today? That's a big one because we buy things at points in time in our life that are important at the time. But would I buy it again now? If I'm not going to buy it again now, then why would I hang on to this? Again, will it fit comfortably in the next home? Is there someone else who would enjoy this more? This is a really great question. If people are struggling to let go of some things, to think through, is sitting here in my closet not doing anything, taking up space, collecting dust. Is there someone else who would benefit from this? And then looking into some, you know, places where either people or places where you can donate those things, give those things away, where they would actually make use of them. So, you know, newcomers to Canada often need things. There's people moving out of shelters that often need things. So there's places where you can connect with people who would actually need and use those items rather than them taking up space in the home. And then, I mean, I'm sure most people have heard of the whole Marie Kondo does this spark joy thing that happened a few years ago. She's saying you only need to keep things that bring you joy. And that is a valuable question to ask. I think we sometimes need to keep things that don't bring us joy because they just need to be used in our house. But also think through, like, maybe this brought me joy at a previous time in my life. But now it's just, neat. I remember that event or that person or that activity, but it's not something that I'm actively enjoying now. And so then you can let it go. So examples of that are like if you had previous hobbies, you know, if you did lots of crafting and had like, you know, 5 different types of crafting things that you did. And now, you know, moving to a smaller place, you're not going to have room for all of those things. So maybe pick one craft that you want to continue doing. So maybe you want to continue knitting, but you're not going to sew and you're not going to, you know, make seasonal decorations and you're not going to do painting or like whatever the things are that will help you if you can narrow it down to something that does still bring you joy and let go of some of the other things. That helps. The focus is still on this brings me joy. You still have something and you're letting go of the rest so that you can enjoy that more. And then, like I said, sentimental items, save them for later. They are the hardest decisions. It will get easier over time. But I think it's important to also create some boundaries when you get to that point of looking at the sentimental things. If you're moving to a smaller place, you know, think about where am I going to put this? How am I going to use this or display this? If you're keeping things in boxes, it's not ideal because then you don't really get to enjoy those things, and you're not really giving a lot of respect and honor to the things that are in those bins and boxes. But if you do, set a limit. I will keep 1 or 2 memory boxes, maybe one box, shoebox type size, full of some old cards and letters, and maybe another one with some items that were special from the past. Allow yourself maybe one small shelf for photos instead of family photos, on every surface. In your current place, you're not going to have as many surfaces. So think about, I'm going to have one set of shelves that will have family pictures on them. And just really choose the best of the best. You're looking for the treasures, the things that are really going to make you smile and bring you joy. And as was it Monica who said, the memory is not in the object, right? I have the memory in my brain, regardless of whether I keep this object or not. If you're worried about losing memories of things, you can take pictures, maybe create a digital scrapbook of a bunch of items that you're decluttering that will still bring you those same memories and the same emotions even attached to the object without having the actual physical object. Those are a few tips related to sentimental items. I could go on and on about this. I'm actually writing a book about decluttering sentimental items. So when that comes out, you can check that out with more details about a lot of specific items as well as general tips. But it's definitely the hardest part. So save it as long as possible and then deal with it the best that you can. One thing that I always encourage people to do is to try to use or display your sentimental items. So here's a few examples that I've pulled together. If you've got ticket stubs, we don't get those anymore because everything's electronic, but if you have a bunch of these from the past, various tickets, you can do a shadow box where you can see them. And instead of having them in a shoebox buried in the back of your closet, you actually get to see them and remember those shows that you went to or concerts or whatever it was, the people that you were with. It's kind of a neat way to enjoy them. You can get quilts or pillows, or I love these bears that are made out of clothing. So these were made for somebody like who had passed away. That was they were born in 1939, passed away in 2018. And this lady made bears out of some of their clothing and gave them to each of the grandchildren, which I thought was really cool. The bottom picture there is a doily. And this lady had lots of them. I couldn't keep them all, and nobody else wanted them. So she framed one so she could remember that her grandmother loved to crochet these doilies, and she wanted to keep that memory without keeping all the doilies. So I thought that was a really neat way to still remember and honor that memory. And on the right there, this is somebody whose mother and grandmother sewed all the time, and she was not very much of a sewer, but she wanted to still hang on to some of the things, but not all of the things that she had inherited when they were downsizing. And so she created a frame with just a few notions and patterns and things. And I just thought that was a really neat way to, again, still honor that hobby that they had that brought them joy without feeling they had to keep all of the stuff. So just a few ideas here for when to call a professional organizer, because it's not necessary for everybody. There's lots of people who handle this all on their own in their own family, and that's no problem. But if you don't have a clear starting point on what to do and where to begin, having someone come in, even just to do a consultation and put a plan together with you, can be super helpful, and then you can implement the plan within your own family. If there's a lot of overwhelm and stress or really tight timelines, strongly encourage calling a professional organizer to help to meet those deadlines. And especially if there isn't a lot of family support, because there's a lot of decisions to be made. If there's a lot of emotions tied up, if somebody just passed away, for example, and everything is very overwhelming, having a neutral party who can help guide some of the decisions is helpful. You're sorting through the whole home. Again, it's hard to know where to start. And if you're just doing a little bit here and a little bit there, sometimes you can feel like you're not making any progress and get frustrated. But if we can put a plan together to help, then you'll continue to see some progress. And even you just need someone to coordinate helpers, like what I did with that family. I was involved with that as well because of the tight timeline, but even just someone who can kind of coordinate who can come on which days and who's going to help grandma with this or that or whatever. So that, again, you don't have to do it all alone. There's people out there who can support through this challenging time. So just a few final thoughts, and then we'll open up to some Q&A. So you can make progress, even if it feels really overwhelming and you don't know how you're going to tackle it all. You can make progress. Just get started, and it's never too early to start. Every step forward makes a difference. A lighter, safer, more comfortable future is possible, and there's support along the way if you need it. And I love this picture. This is actually just from online, but it just showed like a happy parent and happy adult child. And that's my wish for all of you as you go through this phase of decluttering, is that those family relationships remain intact and even strengthen through this process, instead of having issues that tear you apart. We want this to be a time that can bring people closer together. So I have an offer for you that are here today. If you hire me for any decluttering organizing services, I'm happy to give you 10% off your first session. So just mention that you attended the session today, and I'll give you 10% off. I also would like to do a draw, and for the people who are here, I can give you a free, no strings attached in-home assessment for your family or for yourself or whatever. And I'll give you a copy of my book at the same time. So at the assessment, we would tour the home, discuss what kind of items are in the home and what kind of general categories they may have trouble decluttering or that would be easy to declutter, discussing the timeline, discussing budget, looking at who is going to be available to help through this process, and then putting a basic plan together. I think you're all in Mississauga, but if you're out of the Mississauga area or the family that you want to help is outside the Mississauga area, we could do the consultation virtually. So I don't know, Christine, can you throw the names into a wheel or draw something for the participants here?
I can.
You can see-
Okay.
Okay.
So, oops. Wheel of names. If you want to go ahead and
Sure. Let's go on to
taking
questions, and then you can let me know after. So if you have questions, I'm happy to talk about them now, or comments or whatever. I do just want to mention that I do have a newsletter, comes out towards the beginning of each month, and I'm giving always decluttering tips in there. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you can get my free guide, 10 things you can declutter in 10 minutes. So you can scan that QR code if you want to do that. There's also a link there if you're not a QR code person. Yeah, so questions. Maybe I'll just, has everybody got the QR code if they want it? I'm going to stop sharing and then I can see your faces more for questions. Good. I can always put it back up.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So what happens beyond the regular accumulation of things when you feel like the person's an actual like hoarder? Because I'm finding it difficult with some of my clients because it's like we can't even open a door to get into a room. Like it's literally when I say I can't see the floor, I can't see the window. Like, do you just like get a big bin at that point? That's where you hire someone, I guess. But
Yeah, definitely to hire somebody. I actually would recommend that that the person would get involved with some therapy as well, because if somebody comes in and just packs it all away, it doesn't address the issue, the underlying issue,
Yeah.
and they'll just hoard back all over again, wherever they
I'm
moved.
dealing with someone right now who has 2 storage units
Yeah.
and a house full of
Yeah.
stuff, but they need to sell it. So
they need to sell themselves, or the family wants them to sell?
no, they want to sell it.
They want to sell? Yeah. So, I mean,
It's really hard
it's
because
very challenging.
like I do help, but it's like I don't know where to go with everything. Like
No, that would be too much for you as a realtor to probably, like, the time involved
Yeah.
would be so much. Doing some basic decluttering as a realtor is not as big of a deal, but hoarding would be way too much. I guess it depends, because we use the word hoarder often without actually necessarily meaning someone with hoarding disorder that has the mental health challenges. Sometimes their circumstances and stuff is just built up and there's just a lot of it, but they're ready to let go. I can work with people like that if they're ready to let go and willing to let go. And we just go through things and if reminding them of where they're going, that it's a smaller place and you need to get rid of this stuff so you can sell this place. That usually can help motivate. It just takes time to get through it because there's just that much more stuff to get through. But if they are suffering from hoarding disorder, they need mental health therapy, and I don't provide that. It's beyond my scope as an organizer. So I think maybe trying to dig in a little bit and see what's the underlying issue. If you even start in a corner, like going through a box or something with them, if they want to hold on to everything, even things that make no sense to hold on to, then they need the mental health side of it. If they're willing to let go of things as you start, then you know, okay, yeah, they're not a hoarder. They're willing to let go. They just have a lot of stuff to go through, and then an organizer can help.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Other questions?
On your website, do you have a list of resources for places to take things? I have a hard time just like throwing things away because I bought it or it was useful or it still has life in it. So I just don't want to throw things away all the time. But then what I did with my last big purge was I ended up just taking everything to Value Village. But that also bugs me because everything is so expensive there for people who are just giving away stuff.
Don't do Value Village.
Yeah.
They're the worst because they're for profit. So the money that they're making is just lining some corporate person's pocketbook, right? Like at least if you're going to donate it to thrift stores, find nonprofit ones. The Salvation Army, Mission Thrift Store, Goodwill, those are all places that, or in Oakville, there's Safety Net. They do a lot of good things. So there's places where the stuff that you're donating can be used by other people, or that when it's sold by whoever purchases it, the money goes to charity, which is much more important. And also even like Mission Thrift Store, for example, they deal with, they give certificates to people from the Compass who need things. They give them a gift certificate. They can go and spend money on the things that they need that Compass can't provide for them. And other things like that, like they do a lot of local stuff, but also the money goes to like literacy programs and other things in other parts of the world. So just finding places that you know where either the items are going to go to people or the money that's raised from them is going to go to people in need. That really helps make it easier to let go. And honestly, if you're decluttering a lot of stuff, it is easier to just put it all in boxes and bags, throw it in your car and drop it off in one place rather than finding individual places for them. I'm working on a resource list. In my head, I have a great resource list. So if there's specific things you're not sure about, always feel free to ask, and I can point you in the right direction or find somebody who could point you in the right direction for specific items. Because there is
I know Brampton has like, I'm going to call it the dump, but it's not, but they have an area too where they will take certain things. And I don't know if Mississauga has that too. So you can take your recycling, but you can also take clothing and other things too. I don't know. I'm assuming it goes to some charity.
I think it's Salvation Army, unless they've changed it recently. But it's definitely somewhere nonprofit.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that they take others. So you could, take recycling as well as take, let's say some construction stuff, and you have to pay depending on what it is. If it's
we have
garbage or
not far from us, we have the Battleford recycling center. And we didn't use it for a long time because we thought it was so expensive and we're already paying in our taxes to have our garbage picked up. And finally, I just said to my husband, enough. The boys are filling my van and I'm taking it. And it was like $14.
Yeah, it's not expensive.
We've been sitting around with all this crap for so long. So yeah, whenever he goes away, I always fill, come on, boys, fill the van. Get it all in there.
And two specific things I'll mention. Every time I go to the dump with some stuff from clients or whatever, you can take electronics that need to be recycled. You can take them. It's still inside the paid area, but if you tell them I just have electronics, then they'll let you in, drop off the electronics on a bench, and then you drive back out. There's no cost for that. Or if you have mixed items, like you do the thing first where you they weigh what you've dropped off for all the other things, and then you drive back through again with just the electronics, and you don't have to pay to drop those off. They also take a lot of hazardous stuff, so like your old
Paint
fluorescent
cans.
tubes and all that kind of stuff, paint cans. They'll take meds. You have expired meds. The drugstores want you to like pop them all out of the blister packs and stuff. You can drop those off at the hazardous section with just in their original packaging or whatever. Like just
Okay.
take it all, take the bottles, take the boxes, just dump it all there,
That's
and
good
they take it all. So that's a
What
huge.
place is that?
That's at the peel waste.
Oh,
Any of
peel
the peel
waste.
dumps. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're Oakville. I don't think Oakville does that. You have to
Okay.
go to the drugstores, but most drugstores usually want you to pop everything out. They don't want to do all the popping. But yeah, so that's a few things. The other thing I want to mention is textile recycling. So if you have like mismatched socks, if you've got like clothing that's got a tear or whatever, and it's not really donatable, anything textile that can't be donated, but is still clean, like you don't want to put like dirty underwear or something in the bag, but clean textile things, you can market textile in the bag and drop it off. Salvation Army and Mission Thrift and Safety Net in Oakville, they all will take those things, they sell them to textile resellers, and that money again supports the charities that they support, keeps it out of the landfill. So like we have a huge textile problem in the landfills, stuff, fast fashion. We have so much clothing there that it doesn't degrade over time. It takes a long time. So if you can recycle as much as possible, that's really helpful. And also if you're decluttering your linen closet, animal shelters love like old blankets and sheets and towels and stuff for the pets. So even if they're stained or whatever, and you never want to donate it because it's too worn out, you can take it to the shelter. They don't care about worn out things and stains and stuff. So that's just a few areas that commonly when I'm decluttering with clients, we come across those things, and it's a way of keeping all of that stuff out of the landfill.
Awesome. Does anyone have any more questions or sorry,
Kathy, you're just on mute.
Unmute.
There you
Okay,
go.
just one more. Just again,
Yeah.
because my sister was recently. My sister didn't have any children,
Mhm.
and whenever people wanted to give her something, I mean, she had money to anyway. Crystal, China,
Yeah.
the figurines, the Dalton figurines and stuff. Where do you take that? Like, what do you do with it? I Googled it, and it's like, if they want to give you $5 for a Dalton figurine. Well, I
Mhm.
don't know. I know it's worth a lot more than that, but if nobody wants it, it's not worth anything,
Not worth anything. Yeah,
right?
that's the thing. You can find collectors on like eBay and on Facebook groups and such, where you could, if they're looking for specific pieces, then you might have some value attached to it. But as a general thing, a lot of that stuff is not, it doesn't have the value now that it did in the past because nobody cares about it anymore. As people are, passing it down, there's nobody to pass it to because a lot of younger generation live in smaller homes, don't have the storage for
Don't
a
want
lot of knickknacks, and it doesn't have the same meaning to them. It has a lot of meaning for the people who bought it because they spent up a lot of money to buy these things, right? And so it has value to them, like money value, but it doesn't have a lot of money value in the real world right now. Silver does. So if you mentioned tarnished silver and such, you can sell that right
melt
now.
it
Silver
down.
is hot. Hmm?
Sell it
melt
and
it.
melt it to have
Yeah,
it melted
yeah.
down. Yeah.
I have a contact in Hamilton that will, if you have a lot, they'll come to you and give you a price, and they'll take it away and sell it and deal with it, rather than you taking it to like a bunch of jewelry stores and stuff, and then they can be funny with prices. Same with jewelry. If you've got gold and silver jewelry, they'll tell you a value up front, and you can choose to sell or not sell to them, but they don't haggle, and you don't have to deal with a lot of like jewelry store people. There's like haggling involved, and some people I just want to know the amount. Like, tell me how much it's worth. How much can I get for this? And then you choose to do it or not do it. For other collectibles, there's a place called Foster's, I think it is. No, not Foster. Finley's. Finley's does auctions. And so they have a physical location you can take things to, but they also they'll rent hotel rooms, conference rooms and stuff from time to time and travel around, and you can bring your stuff to them. And they will it's like kind of like that Antiques Roadshow sort of thing, but not necessarily antiques. And they'll buy stuff from you on the spot if you want, or they'll at least just tell you what the value is, and that will give you an idea if it's worth trying to spend some time selling it privately or not. In general, for selling things, my general encouragement to people is if you've got a lot to declutter, don't spend a lot of time trying to sell stuff, because it's just taking time and energy away from making decisions. I'd rather see you donate a lot of stuff and keep making progress through your home than spending time trying to post pictures on Marketplace and waiting for answers, and you're going back and forth with people, and then they still show up and only want to pay you half of what they agreed to. And it's a lot of time and energy. Unless you've got really big ticket items, I just don't find it's worth the hassle for most people. There's exceptions, obviously. Some people love doing that kind of thing, so great. But most people find it very annoying and stuff, and I'd rather that you spend your time and energy making decisions and declutter more and donate those things than spend a lot of time trying to sell stuff.
We have a friend who's a stay-at-home mom. She's on long-term disability, and we give her bags and bags of clothing.
Perfect.
And so most of it goes to her son. And it's really weird when he comes over, I see him in the boys' clothes, and it's like it just brings back all these memories.
Yeah.
But what she actually does is she does sell it in bundles. So because she's on long-term disability, this is just extra cash for her. She loves it. So I feel
Absolutely.
good about giving it to her, knowing that. And then what if she doesn't get rid of it? She takes it to her church. And on Sundays, it puts it out on a table, and then people walk by and so I feel good that that's happening. Like it's not just going to waste. But one other thing I wanted to share, somebody on my Facebook timeline who is a Facebook friend, so not a friend in real life. Well, they could be, but whatever, you know what I mean. She was talking about her son's recent wedding, and they did so many really, really intimate, cool things. One of the things they did was they got gold pieces from family members, melted them down, and that's how they made their rings. I thought, wow, because we
So
have
cool.
oodles of gold stuff that like I'll never wear that ring again. And my husband has like 3 class rings. My kids aren't going to wear those, but I thought that was a really neat idea. So
Cool.
repurposing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything you can do like that that has some kind of meaning attached to it, and don't add clutter to the newlyweds home right from the start. We put a lot of things on our wedding list that we think we need, right? But often, like, how many times have you got wedding gifts that you never used? They sit there for years, and then you feel bad giving them away later. So I'm always really intentional if someone says their son or daughter, whoever family member is getting married, I'm like, tell them not to put a lot of crap on their wedding registry. Like really focus on things that they know they're going to use and love. And if not, like put money towards a bigger thing that you know you're going to use and love, instead of a bunch of small stuff that they just become clutter.
Okay, awesome. Let me flip over to the wheel.
Okay.
And then, I have to get, I think I accidentally made you host and not instead of
Oh,
co-host. Could you give me co-host back so I could share, or host back, whichever one? And
yeah.
then I'll be able to share. All right.
Okay, I think I just made you so you can share.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to go to the wheel. Everybody sees the wheel? Christine, Monica,
Yep.
Eugenie, Kathy. Everybody's happy their name is on that list. All right, I will go ahead and spin the wheel, and let's see who our winner is.
Do 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 do.
Oh, congratulations,
Hey.
Kathy. Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right. So Kathy will be in touch.
Okay.
I can put a
All
plan
right.
together for you to get your house decluttered.
Okay.
All right, ladies,
Oh
before
no.
we sign off, just a quick smile at the camera. 1, 2, 3, smile. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay.
And thank you,
Thank you,
Hilda. Excellent
everyone.
presentation as
My
usual.
pleasure. Thanks.
Have a
Have a
great
great day.
day.
Thanks, Hilda.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.